It is packed here at AMC tonight for Superman. We're seeing it in IMAX. This is the movie of the year. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Movie Health Community, the internet's #1 source of health warnings at the movies. So there's always an air of something special whenever a new Superman movie comes around. We felt it in 2006 with Superman Returns. We felt it in 2013 with Man of Steel. And that same feeling has been back in the lead up to this new movie that for a long time was going to be called Superman Legacy. So let's get into it. As usual, the biggest thing we talk about here is Superman safe for photosensitive audiences? I am shocked and very pleased to tell you that most of it is. There is a device that is used repeatedly in this movie to create portals. There are a lot of electrical effects attached to this device. These electrical effects do have some bright flashes that are very sudden, but nothing too severe. The most intense strobe effect happens in a scene where lights are going through what look like fiber optic cables in a rhythmic way. And that rhythm does speed up a bit as the scene goes on. And as that speeds up, it does create a bit of a strobe effect. There is one scene that it's not really easy to predict where there are a lot of cameras flashing from all directions. It's a short scene and the camera flashes are contained to this one scene. And there is action at very high speeds. A lot of that with passing the terrain or the clouds in the sky can create a strobe effect sometimes. So for flashing lights, we are going to give Superman a 5 out of 10. In terms of motion, I'm sure it will come as no surprise. There is some pretty intense camera motion in this movie. Nothing with shaking cameras though. But there is a lot with very high speeds, not just of the action, but of the cameras as well. So we get a lot of travel at very high speeds, we get quite a bit of peril at extreme heights, and we get the camera going through complex maneuvers like barrel rolls. The extreme heights and the barrel rolls are not exclusive to the flying scenes, just so you're warned. They are elsewhere in this movie too. And then in terms of mental health, there are 2 scenes where something is coming out of the mouth of our main protagonist. In the opening scene, it's blood. And in a late scene, it is something that gets coughed out violently in a way that does heavily resemble vomit. Finally, there's one scene where domestic violence is shown on screen. That about does it for the health warnings. Let's talk about if Superman is any good. There was a video game a few years ago called Spider-Man. That's all it was. The experience of this Spider-Man video game, no matter what version of Spider-Man you grew up with, whether it was the comics or the Tobey Maguire movies or the Andrew Garfield movies or the Tom Holland movies with the Avengers and all that, no matter what version was your introduction to Spider-Man, that Spider-Man game perfectly encapsulated the spirit of every single version, and it felt like the ideal centralization of where the canon comes in. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. All this to say, the way that Spider-Man video game felt so at home with every other version of Spider-Man, this Superman movie feels right at home, no matter what Superman you grew up with. What I was noticing most about this movie is that a lot of it was written and filmed as if it were taking place in the 1950s and as if it were being filmed in the 1950s or 60s or whatever, even though it took place in what is obviously a modern day. I love seeing that crossover of styles into different environments or time periods, like how Django Unchained is an excellent Western that takes place not in the West. This movie had one of the best opening sequences of any superhero movie I've seen. I was instantly hooked into this iteration of Superman and this iteration of the DC extended universe. I would say this movie is just as good as the first Avengers movie. and it feels like just as big an event film, which almost feels impossible in this day and age when it seems that we are oversaturated with superhero content. But if movies like this keep showing up every year or two, that's going to keep the superhero genre alive for a long time. This is a movie that I feel like David Corenswet's performance would have made Christopher Reeve proud, or Brandon Routh or Henry Cavill proud. Rachel Brosnahan would have made Margot Kidder proud. Nicholas Hoult seemed to bring a lot of the villainy that Gene Hackman and Kevin Spacey brought to the role before, but still managed to make it his own. If I had a nickel for every high-budget superhero movie with Nicholas Hoult and Edie Gathegi, I have no idea if I pronounced that name right, but if I had a nickel for every high-budget superhero movie that those two were in together that ended up being absolutely awesome, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's amazing that that happened twice because they were both in X-Men First Class together. The only complaint I really have about this movie is that there are a lot of scenes where the action seems to be happening too fast, and there's too much going on the screen to be able to actually tell what's going on, particularly in a scene that involves peril in a river. But other than that, I was very impressed and shocked at just how much fun I had watching this movie. I am going to give Superman an A. Thank you so much to our readers on Tumblr and Facebook, and as always, an extra special thanks to our patrons on our Patreon page, whose names are scrolling on the screen like credits right now. As a reminder, nothing produced by Movie Health Community is medical advice, nor has any of it ever been reviewed by any medical professionals. Be sure to leave a like on this video, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon if you want to be notified when we post new videos, and leave a comment if you have anything to add to this discourse about Superman, especially if you disagree with anything I've said. We love hearing from you. And as always, stay safe at the movies.